Hey, hey, good afternoon, lovers. Welcome to today's Cuppa with Katie. It's gorgeous to be with you. And today we're taking a look at how to deal with your. Oh, hold on one second. Something strange has come up on my screen. There we go. I think I'm live. Um, so, if you're in a relationship and you are finding yourself relying perhaps a little bit too much on your man, and as a result losing your sense of self-confidence, self-trust, kind of like a sense of like strength and empowerment. We're going to talk about that today, and I'm going to give you a few questions to ask yourself to get yourself back in your power. And it's a funny one because, interestingly, most of the women I'm working with actually are more falling into the category of not wanting to ask their guy for help and support, not trusting them to deliver, not able to ask how to get their needs met. But then there's another camp of women, and that camp have been in relationship for perhaps quite a long time. And I wonder if any of you, and say hi if you're showing up live. I can see a few of you joining. Please say hello and let me know who you are. But there's a camp of women who perhaps have been in a relationship for a while, or have noticed a pattern that when they're in relationship, they tend to lean on the man, in their words, a little bit too much. And as a result, like slowly over time, their sense of self-confidence and their inner kind of sense of strength and empowerment begins to wane. And the longer they're in the relationship, the more they kind of feel like he does everything for me, and I need him to. And if they're having that, and please do say hi, I can see more of you joining, say hello. If they're having that experience, if they're telling me that they're having that experience, it suggests they're not okay with it. And in fact, I know the reason they're telling me is because they're not okay with it. They have this sense like, I'm giving my power away somewhat to the man in my life, and I don't really want to, but I don't really know how to approach it differently. So while I absolutely love the the natural flow between masculine and feminine energy in relationship, I love it when a woman feels able to ask her guy for what she needs and for him to deliver. I love it when a man supports a woman. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and it has to feel imbalanced. Both parties must feel empowered in that dynamic. Hey, Lindy, good to see you. Right? They both need to feel empowered in that dynamic. And if the woman, through asking to have her needs met, is feeling disempowered because she feels like there's elements of her life that she's not in charge of and she's giving her power away to him, then we need to address that. We need to take a look at that. Hello, Helen, you're working. Good stuff. So just check this out. If this kind of sounds like you, then I invite you to ask yourself if you actually trust your own inner masculine energy to get stuff done. That's something that you might want to take a look at for yourself. Like, do you trust? Because what I see with women, and I can fall into this a little bit too sometimes, by the way. That said, I was, single parenting for 8 years. I was the man and the woman in our household for a long time. Like, I can do, in fact, amongst some of my girlfriends, we call it blue jobs and pink jobs, super sexist. Uh, the blue jobs amongst our friends, and this is our jokey kind of conversation, the blue jobs are like fixing a leaking tap, changing light bulbs, putting petrol in the car, sorting out insurances on the house and the car and the pets, putting the bins out, like heavy lifting, digging in the garden. Like, we kind of call those blue jobs. It's not true. Don't hold me to it. And then there's the pink jobs. I did my fair share of blue jobs in my time, and now I have my man. I actually really love that there's certain jobs that he will take care of, and I really appreciate that. I also know that I can do them, and I also know that sometimes I still do, and that feels good for me. I know though that when I know how to ask him for what I need, and I know how to receive from him, and it feels like a beautiful win-win. So I personally, in my relationship, I'm not suffering what some of the women I'm working with are suffering. Although I will put my hand up to saying that when it comes to our mortgage, I really do kind of relinquish responsibility. And that's something that I'm like openly sharing with you. Hey, Kellyanne, um, when it comes to that, I kind of relinquish that responsibility. And that's not really ideal. And he and I have actually been talking about that, and how it's important that I kind of take charge of that again, because I've owned property before I met him. I've handled mortgages before in a previous life. It's funny how in this relationship I've kind of reneged responsibility a little bit for that part. But for a lot of women, it is like, where are you reneging responsibility? Where are you just allowing him, hi Athena, to take control, to be in charge? Is it around sorting out the car? Is it around insurances and getting insurance quotes? Is it something to do with accounting? Is it something to do with the mortgage? Is it something to do with, I don't know, putting petrol in? Did I already say that? Maybe it's cooking. I don't know, but where perhaps you're allowing him to do stuff and you're not, when you really could. And then you need to kind of check in with yourself and ask yourself, like, have you learned that there's certain jobs and certain things that women don't do? Like that's a man's job. Like, where is this a conditioning and programming piece for you in your life? And where are you, like, let's be honest, like playing victim to your conditioning and programming? It's like, well, that's a blue job. That's what the guys do. And the other cool thing I want you to check out for yourself is, are you avoiding learning something new or figuring something out? Have you actually put it perhaps into the too hard basket? These are big and important questions to ask yourself. If you are in a relationship where you are losing your sense of confidence, your sense of self-trust, your sense of inner strength because you're leaning a little bit too heavily on your guy, you need to take a look at this. Are you not trusting yourself to be able to get certain things done? Are you giving in to your conditioning and programming that that's a man's job, that's the man's role, and that's the woman's role? Or are you avoiding having to learn something new or figure something out? Like, these are important pieces to just check out for yourself. And the other thing that occurs to me, and I don't have a copy of the book here at hand, but I just recently finished reading, I'm looking for it in my library right now. It was called, I think it's called, by Cameron Diaz, Longevity. I think so, something about aging well. Anyway, there's a chapter in there where she writes about the fact that statistically women are still living longer than men. And there's an element of truth and fact in the fact that many of us women will outlive our guys. And we see it, don't we, in a lot of couples when one dies, disappears, and the other one's left to handle everything. And it really is kind of a thing that a lot of women are left not knowing how to handle some of the basic stuff around the house. They don't know who their utility supplier is. They don't know if they break down on the side of the road, who to call. They haven't sorted out. They don't know how to sort out their mortgage. They don't have access to their bank accounts. I mean, crazy stuff. But it's very easy to give your power away in these basic pieces in life and feel disempowered as a result. And hello, there's more joining. Say hi as you're joining. And so if you're feeling at all disempowered in your relationship around these pieces, self-love is self-responsibility, and it invites you to take your power back. You're invited to take a look at, well, where am I being a little bit of a victim? And remember, the victim sort of oscillates between feeling entitled, so like he should do it, it's a man's job, that's his role, to feeling resigned, like, well, I can't do it, I don't know how, I've never learned. And the victim will very easily fall into one or both of those categories. But the feeling that you're left with is a sense of disempowerment. Like, I'm not making you wrong for this. We're not wrong for this. It's just an easy place to fall into. And I can see it in my relationship. I've fallen into this kind of, I would say it's a resigned position of like a deep belief, like I can't do it when it comes to maths and accounting and figuring numbers out. So around our mortgage or mortgages, because we've got another property, there's an element of me that sort of abdicates responsibility because of a deep kind of victim conditioning that says I can't do it, which actually goes all the way back to my childhood when I was a kid at school, and I had a lot of trouble with maths. And it's funny how that deep belief system from when I was in school, which by the way I totally overcame, like by my last year in school I'd hired a tutor and I ended up topping my class in maths. So I actually disproved the belief that I'm not good at maths. And yet there's still quite a strong conditioning deep inside of me that says Katie isn't good at numbers and figures. And so now I find myself in a relationship and I quickly sort of palm off responsibility around the mortgage, but I don't feel empowered. And if anything happened to James, yeah, I could figure it out. I mean, I'm actually the one with the organized filing cabinet in my office, so I could get all the documentation out. I know I would figure it out if anything happened to him, like God forbid, touching wood. And it's not, if I want to be an equal part in my relationship, it's not very fair, I don't feel, to put it on him. It's quite stressful. We're in the middle of selling one of our properties right now. Like the thinking and the sorting and the logistics, the practicalities around the mortgage and the sale of the house and yada, yada, yada. Like it's on his plate right now because I've kind of abdicated responsibility. So I'm here as a sounding board. We talk about it, but at the end of the day, he's kind of handling it and he's got a lot on his plate right now. So I'm not like, I'm really outing myself to you guys here right now. Like, and this is what we have to do. If we're going to stand up and say I'm an empowered woman, we got to own our own shit. We've got to own and notice where we're not doing what we could do. And where, like, I'm noticing that slowly my confidence in my ability to handle my domestic and personal finances is slightly eroding, and that erosion builds over time, doesn't it? It's like trust builds over time, the erosion builds over time. So a few years into our relationship, I'm noticing a slight erosion around my confidence in handling my personal finances, and we got to like nip that in the bud and do something about it. So an empowered woman takes the time to look at all areas of her life, to notice where she's giving her power away, and to do something about it. So here's the questions that I want you to ask yourself. And Linda's joined. Hello, completely disempowered, has been ill for a long time. And it's beautiful that your husband's taking care of you while you've been ill. And that's like, isn't that the perfect, not excuse, it's not an excuse, it's the perfect experience that you're having, where if you've been unwell, for him to step up and take care of you is a beautiful dynamic. And I love that you have that with your husband, Linda. And I know you a little bit, and you take care of each other, right? And at some point when you start feeling stronger, you might feel like you want to take your power back by taking care of certain things now that you can. Do you know what I mean? So 3 questions that you can ask yourself if you're finding yourself in this position. And me, and putting this content together for you today, had me look at the piece that came up for me, which is around our mortgage. And I'm going to like get on top of that now. So yeah, through outing myself to you, I'm taking self-responsibility. So the questions you could ask yourself, the first one is, what could I take ownership of in my life to start to build my self-trust and self-confidence? Yeah, so remember, we started this conversation with, if you resonate with this idea of losing self-trust, with losing self-confidence, with losing that sense of inner strength, because you are leaning on your man too much. And you know if it's too much. It's not for anyone else to tell you. You know if the dynamic is slightly out of balance or out of whack. You know if you're allowing yourself to fall victim to your conditioning and programming. Yeah. So what could you take ownership of in your life to start to rebuild that self-trust and self-confidence? It's an awareness creation piece. And then you got to ask yourself, so question number 2 to yourself, what small step could I start with today? Right? Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't have to figure it all out now. But if you know that, so for me, it's a piece around your home financing and so on, like, okay, what could I start with first? Maybe go open that filing cabinet and read your mortgage documents, Katie. What could you start with first? What conversations do you need to have? You don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to figure out everything at once, but come up with like a baby step-by-step plan of empowering yourself. If you don't know how to access, and I've spoken to women about this before many times, if you don't have access to your own bank accounts, why not sort that out? Are you in charge of the money flow in and out of your life to some degree? Is it a shared responsibility? Is it equal? Do you feel in charge in some way? Yes or no? And if you don't, sort that out. You know, if your husband suddenly wasn't around, what is going on in your household or in your life that he would usually take care of and you wouldn't even know where to begin? Get on top of that. Baby steps, bit by bit by bit. Don't have to do it all at once, but maybe write yourself a to-do list and agree that within the next month or two, you're going to have the answers to these questions. And then step 3, I want you to ask yourself, where do I desire support? So that you are in choice. So where do you desire your partner, the man in your life? Where do you desire his support? Yeah. What would feel good for you? Like, what do you need? How could you ask for that? How could it be a beautiful win-win? Because remember, the masculine does love to serve the feminine. But where are you in choice around that? Not in victim, like, I don't know how, or it's his responsibility. Yeah. What would feel like a really nice giving and receiving movement of energy between the two of you? Get in choice around that. Be on the same page with him. Have those conversations. Yeah. So question 1, what could I take ownership of in my life? Question 2, what small step could I start with today? Question 3, where do I desire support? Remember, self-love is self-responsibility. Only you can make these shifts and changes in your life. And remember, you always have a choice. If you have any level of disempowerment going on in your relationship that relates to any of what I'm talking about today, remember, you are always in choice. You can do something about it. And I hope that today has been helpful. Linda's saying, yes, absolutely. Kellyanne saying, let me see if I can click into this. Yeah, I have been taking steps to making my current financial situation work rather than just coasting from payment to payment, hoping it will stretch out to being in control, know what comes and goes, where and when. It would be nice to share that responsibility with someone. But Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah. And that's awesome, Kellyanne. And it's whether you're in a relationship or not. Okay. Like, you bring up a really good point, Kellyanne. Like, let's just like throw the whole relationship conversation out the window and just apply this to your life. Where are you not taking responsibility? Where are you falling into that victim trap of saying, well, it's their problem, they need to sort it out, or I don't know, you know, that whole piece of sort of oscillating between the entitlement, they should sort it out, and resigned, I don't know, I don't have the answers. You do have the answers, you do know, and if you're feeling disempowered, you can take your power back. So yeah, as Kellyanne has been doing, and I know we had that conversation a while back, didn't we? Where I think I challenged you to put an Excel spreadsheet together. It's basic stuff, you know, just putting, like, when it comes to your you called it your financial situation, what's coming in, what's going out. We need to know that. When we don't have that information, we create chaos and stress and anxiety in our heads, and we feel that in our bodies, and it brings us down and causes anxiety and makes us feel sick. And that's not an empowered woman's way of showing up in the world. So I hope that something of what I shared today, no matter what your situation is, rings a bell with you, rings true to you in some way. And now you have the choice as to whether or not you're going to do something with that. Sending you so much love. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye, darlings.